start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start off this meeting by again thanking the Royers for hosting us while we continue making progress to make our new town hall handicap and ADA accessible and in compliance. The first item that we have on the agenda for today is our town administrator report.
These are for the recording, so they're not for amplification, so we got to speak up, including me.
Okay, here are some of the activities of the office for the last few days. Obviously, preparation of the warrant, presentation for the special town meeting. Today, I posted the ad for a permanent town accountant on the Mass Municipal Association website. Here's a copy of the ad. Still time to change it. It won't be posted until probably mid-morning tomorrow. I spoke with Jerry Perry at the Department of Revenue. As you know, he suggested that DOR officials come to town and have a budget session to review where we are, to begin the tax recap preparation. And he could not give me a date, but said within a week he'll be back with a date when Department of Revenue people can come to town and we can have this session. And it should be sometime in early to mid-August. We had a department heads meeting yesterday, and I discussed a number of activities, mostly oriented towards the financial side of the town. We are going to be receiving a budget versus actual spreadsheet monthly, which will be distributed to all the department heads so that they will know where the spending stands within their department, as well as to the Board of Selectmen, and we can certainly get copies to the advisory committee so that we can keep track on a monthly basis of where we stand financially. No surprises. We also discussed the upcoming audit and the whole issue of our bond rating. After the meeting, I spoke with John Driscoll of the Light and Water Department and passed along a recommendation from our interim town accountant that the Water and Light Department should seek their own bond rating from Moody's or Standard & Poor's, because when the town's bond rating is restored next spring after we conduct our audits, it's likely that our bond rating will be less favorable than a rating that the Light Department could get. And so if they're going to be doing borrowing of any significance, it makes sense to have a bond rating of their own. Also, we implemented the new payroll control process. All department heads will be countersigning the payroll for employees within their department. I will be countersigning the payroll of the department heads themselves. And as you know, what we've been doing all along is that the chair of the Board of Selectmen would countersign my timesheet. So we will have controls across the board on timesheets and the payroll function. Also stressed the importance of invoicing our independent enterprises. And I think we have that under control. That although it has not been done apparently in the past, we're going to send invoices to the Water and Light Department and Sewer Departments for their share or their allocation for health insurance and for Worcester County retirement. We also, I think, have made an extraordinary effort to get those payments, whatever payments are still due, in the door prior to the close of business today. Today is the end of fiscal 2014. We are closing the books. I arranged an architect to design a handicap bathroom for Town Hall. Sterling Architects of Cambridge sent a representative to Town Hall today, in fact, and they did their measurements, and I expect that we'll have a plan from them very soon. Also resolved the boiler issue. As you know, the town specified a particular manufacturer of boilers in the bid process. The company that won the bid proposed that they substitute another manufacturer, and I talked with the representative about that and said that we do not have flexibility there. Specification was for a particular manufacturer, and that's what will be installed. I registered for the MHEC conference on July 24th. This is the Massachusetts Higher Education Consortium. It is a regionalized purchasing cooperative. And as you know, Selectman Farrell has suggested that we check that out, and there might be some opportunities to reduce costs for town purchases, so I'm going to go over there for that. Also, a reminder to the board that August 6th is the deadline for any potential questions to go on the state ballot for the November election. I do have a question for the board. I have a grievance from the police department. I've met with the representative of the union, and my question is, should I resolve this or the Board of Selectmen? The contract says that step 4 is when the item comes to the Board of Selectmen. So you can either delegate that or you can schedule an executive session to resolve it. It has to do with the cancellation of the midnight shift and some facts there. So need some guidance from the board on that. If you want to schedule your own exec session, I can brief you, and then we can meet and resolve it, or there's the other option.
What step are we currently at? You said.
Step 4.
Oh, so we are at step 4.
Step 1 is that if a patrolman has a problem, he goes to a sergeant.
Gotcha.
Not resolved there, you go up to the chief. Not resolved there, you go to the Board of Selectmen. There's 2 steps with the sergeant, I'm
Gotcha.
sorry. So then the 3rd step is with the chief, and the 4th step is with the Board of Selectmen, and the 5th step is they can appeal to the state arbitration board. So there's a question.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Is the union willing to sign off on you being the decision maker on that 4th step, or is that going to be another source of?
I have to clarify that. Frankly, they came to me, assuming that I could do it. I looked in the contract, and the contract is very clear language that it's Board of Selectmen, so I can find out about that if you like. In fact, I thought I was meeting today, but maybe they did come over for a meeting, but I was outside and all around. So.
Well, I have no problem with you doing it. I just think that we need the union to sign off on that.
They would have to sign off first, yes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want that to be.
And I would agree with that. I mean, the continuity, I mean, you've already, been involved with the discussions and know the situation. So I think for continuity's sake, clarity, I would be in favor of town administrator handling it.
Yeah.
I would agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I think executive sessions, just because we don't do them as often and they have special rules and procedural requirements, I think anytime we have an executive session, which is we're allowed to do, but I think that it kind of creates an opportunity for there to be some kind of misstep or problem. So if the union is fine with the town administrator addressing this, and it means one less executive session that we have to have. Obviously, if we have to have an executive session, we have to. But I think I fully trust Bob to.
I think this is easily resolved. This is not a tough one.
Okay.
And so I would certainly put language in any written resolution of this, that there's an agreement that would be the 4th step.
Is there a time frame? I know there's usually a time frame for each step.
The timeframes have been met. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I will
It's 7
make-
day, 7 day, 7 day. But
Okay.
we have the meeting has occurred within the timeframes.
Okay, all right. I will make a motion to have the town administrator resolve the grievance.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion from the board? If not, Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
And the last item is there, I could meet in executive session with you at some point and go through that, but that
Sure.
has to do with litigation.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. The next item that we have on the agenda is a list of appointments. There are only 4, so I will just read them. The first, and these are all one-term, one-year appointments that expire in 2015. Herb Farren, Oversight Committee, Planning and Construction of the Senior Center, William Harris, for the same board, and Priscilla Leclerc for the same board, and then John Driscoll for the Stormwater Committee.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. And the next issue that we have is action on Class 2 and Class 3 license transfer, MBW Salvage, and I am recusing myself of this, so it is yours, John.
Okay. We had that before, seen, the license itself, has everybody seen it? Where is it? I signed it.
I just have the original.
Oh, okay,
I have not seen it.
all right.
Doug,
Let's just take a quick, make sure everybody sees it.
pass that back up to Bob.
All right. Now, we spoke about this, I believe, at our last meeting. No, it was 2 meetings before. Yeah. Were there issues here that needed to be resolved, Bob?
Were there issues that needed to be resolved for MBW salvage?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're
No.
aware of. So, does anyone on the board have any questions or concerns? Anybody else have anything they want to say?
Holly has,
All right, okay.
I just wanted to give you a quick explanation. Basically, we had the attorney ask us if we could rename the license, because they wanted to purchase this property, but they wanted to do it before it was put on record. So what I did was I added to the bottom of the license that it becomes effective upon transfer of the property and recording at the Registry of Deeds. So that will satisfy their bank, and they have everything else. They gave us the bond, a certificate of good standing and tax compliance, and they fill out the application, so everything's all set from our point of view.
Okay. We have a motion?
I would make a motion that we grant the Class 2 and Class 3 license to BMW Salvage,
second?
MBW.
All right. Moved and seconded. Anything else? If not, Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote in the affirmative. So we can all sign this and be in business. All right, so this thing on there. Ken can come back.
Does that have to be in blue? No, I've got black here. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
One-day liquor license.
We're not doing that.
Not doing that?
They can't come.
Okay.
They have conflicting dates, so we're not even
So
going to discuss that.
just announce we're passing it.
Yeah. The next item that we have on the agenda is action on a one-day liquor license for Hardwick Vineyard and Winery, and this makes me sad, but they have had to withdraw their request for a one-day liquor license due to scheduling conflicts, not tonight, but the day of the actual event, so they will not be coming, so there's no need for action on that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I think there is a local winery that had been interested.
Sure.
But there wasn't enough room on the common
Oh,
at
okay.
private residence. So I know the private residence that was used before was Pam Scorco. So maybe we could there's still enough time before the craft fair
Oh, right.
to grant a one-day liquor license. So it may be something that we could bring up again if that works out.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Okay?
Julie, will someone approach that winery, or which is,
I can do that.
okay, just
Yeah.
for them to know?
Right.
Otherwise, or
Yeah,
would
they have to
Pam
apply
do
for the
that,
license.
or,
Hmm?
would
They would have to apply for the license.
Right, they would have to apply for the license and go through the whole process.
As long as
that
somebody
Hardwick
approaches
went
them
through.
sooner
Yeah,
rather than later,
Right.
so, okay.
to get it in motion.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
The next item that we have on the agenda is to discuss the hiring freeze. I wanted this on the agenda to be as clear as possible, and to see basically how I interpret it, and to see if everyone on the board is in concurrence with, or at least the majority of how I'm interpreting it. Basically, so the hiring freeze is in place. As we have now moved into the new fiscal year, if there is a position that was funded by the town at annual town meeting and the money is in the budget, then, to me, then that position would not be subject to the hiring freeze because the town voted the position and put the money in the budget to pay for that position. So if there happens to be a police officer that for whatever reason leaves, or someone else that leaves, an assistant that leaves, if there's money in the budget to pay for an assistant, then for me, then that hiring freeze is not applicable. The main reason for the hiring freeze was we didn't know where we were going to be ending out the year, what steps were going to be necessary. Now we have a budget, it's balanced, we know where we are, so I don't have a problem with department heads hiring as long as the money is in their budget to be hired. Yes?
You're gonna hire a janitor for the council on aging building. Have you been up there to see how much is more to be done if we need a janitor? Stuff, I was there again today.
Oh,
That's sad.
right, the person won't be.
Janitor for your town hall.
Right, the person won't be hired for that position until, and what that position, how that was, because we've had a lot of questions about that, how that position was created was by eliminating another position and then using volunteers to fill. So it was an effort by the Council on Aging, which, to free that money so that it could be used from that budget for that purpose. So, and it was approved at town meeting floor, so it was approved, so that's the state of affairs. Does anyone else have any comments regarding or a different interpretation of the hiring freeze, or?
No, but I think we also do need to look at, especially if the deadline's coming up for August 6th for an override, looking at certain positions and assistants positions that were eliminated, and try to figure a way forward. And I also think that there are some positions that are grossly underfunded, salary-wise. It's not competitive at all with the region. And there's a problem with the hours with the town clerk. For some reason, her hours got cut one year and were never restored. So now they're back to what they were, but it's not what everyone else had. So there's a lot of inequity issues that need to be resolved, I think.
Yeah, my only comment would be that, the reason we put the hiring freeze in was because we had uncertain, financial situation. Yes, we're in a new fiscal year. Yes, we did fund some positions through the budget, but are we certain that we have the money to fund this through the whole year? I'm concerned that we may have some budget issues and we may not have properly funded everything to support hiring new people. And one of the things I was going to bring up in my selectmen's comments is I think we do need to do a compensation study, whether that's one of us that does it, whether it's Bob or Holly that does it, with the area towns, because we are really underfunding our people. So before we bring in new people, shouldn't we clean our house and make sure we've got the people that have been here and have been working hard, have lived through the furloughs and the layoffs and the loss of their income, get those folks taken care of before we start bringing new people into the payroll.
Right.
So that's my concern with lifting it. Are we doing the best thing for the town and the employees by bringing in new people while still underpaying everybody else?
What I want to, when I think of the positions for which the hiring freeze will be lifted, with the exception of the Council on Aging position and the Veterans Service Officer, with the exception of those two positions, I'm not talking about new positions, just say new people. So as we know, the assistant left over at the Highway Department. So that position then becomes available. Well, that department likely would need an assistant to run. The assistant position was funded, or if one of our current police officers, I'm not speaking of bringing on an additional officer, but if one were to leave, replacing what was lost, just to keep it balanced, not necessarily adding anything. And I do agree about the override, that we need to discuss that and vote on that shortly. My concern with the override is, because I think this is one of the issues that got us in trouble in the past, is that we say, okay, we want to hire 2 assistants for whatever departments. We're going to fund them $25,000 salaries apiece. We'll have a $50,000 override, and then we're set. And then you are immediately in the hole, because what was not calculated into that was the retirement that we have to pay, the additional retirement, the additional taxes, the additional unemployment, the additional health benefits that have to be paid for that employee. So I'm not saying that we should not be bringing back assistants that need to be replaced, but what I'm saying is we have to be very careful as to the dollar amount and not just say, well, for each $25,000 position or person that we're paying, we need to add that amount to the override. Because I do think that if we have an override for X amount of dollars and we end up spending X amount of dollars, even though our budget is larger, or our income is larger, our expenditures are equally as large, so we're in the exact same financial position that we are before. And I think that's something that we need to be very careful about moving forward to, again, so that we're not in a position where we're kind of in panic mode. Yes, sir.
Just to provide an overview of where we are with our departments, in general, departments have lost administrative support. And to go through where we stand at this point, police department has hired an officer to replace one who retired. The cemetery department has lost an administrative assistant. The highway department has the same administrative assistant, but is reduced to Monday and Friday hours only from what was a 40-hour position. In the case of the health department and the building department, they have lost, the building department has lost an administrative assistant. I've made an arrangement so that health and building will have administrative support, but there's one person rather than 2 at this point. I would say if we're looking at the need right now, it's with the assessor's office and with the clerk's office. Both have lost their administrative assistant, and clearly the department heads are taking on a lot of administrative and clerical responsibilities. We need to address that, but I think it's also the case that we have salaries issues that have to be addressed. And the question for the board is, do we deal with salaries first and then try to provide some needed administrative support? I'll also point out that in the finance operation, there used to be 2 persons providing administrative support for the treasurer and the collector. It's now down to 1 person providing administrative support for the treasurer and the collector, or the treasurer collector and the assistant treasurer collector. So there's no massive hiring going on here. There has been significant reduction of administrative support in the fiscal 15 budget, and there are still some needs, I think particularly with the assessor's office and with the town clerk. we need to address that at some point. Otherwise, I think we can muddle through with what we currently have.
Yeah. I mean, I think we need to be concerned about growing government too fast again.
I
mean,
agree.
we've already been in a financial situation. We have to start looking at how can we consolidate, how can we better use our resources. The plan is for both the assessor and the town clerk to move to an office over at the new town offices. I think we should at least try those two departments sharing an assistant, just like building and health is now sharing an assistant. We need to look at how can we best use our resources. I just think if we just start, bringing assistants back, we're just going to grow, and we're not going to gain that much advantage from it. Granted, we do need administrative assistants. I mean, it's an important function that needs to get done. I would question, though, if we have a treasurer-collector and an assistant treasurer-collector, why do we also need an administrative assistant? So, those are the kinds of things that I think we need to look at before we just, go out and start, hiring new people. So, hiring freeze versus controlled hiring, is, it's one thing or the other. Myself, I'm not really comfortable with just lifting a hiring freeze. If we choose to not use the words hiring freeze and we lift the hiring freeze, then I think we need to have controlled hiring through the town administrator. He needs to be able to make a decision that, yes, this is a necessary position that we need to fill, or no, I think we need to hold off on that, whether it's in the budget or not. Just because we funded a position doesn't mean we have to fill it, doesn't mean we have to pay it.
Yes.
My concern is, if we're gonna be looking at bringing people back, we have to look at it in terms of the services that we need to provide. Are we adequately staffed to do all the inspections, the Board of Health inspections, building inspections, et cetera? Is the highway department staffed enough to handle the winter? And I believe we do have 24-hour police now?
Yes.
Yeah, because we do definitely need that. I think we need to look and make sure we're providing the services that need to be provided.
And I think that it will be important to balance that with, we've asked the town, do you want to fund this level of service? And they said no.
No.
So I think that to just ask again, oh, we're going to, fund, bring all these people back. When I say all these people, a lot, I'm not saying that we were overfunded or overstaffed to begin with, but in the eyes of the town, do we want to go back to that same level of government in 1 or 2 years' time that they already said they don't want to fund? And I think, for me, I think the answer will be no if that's what we're trying to accomplish, so.
I think our pattern is that we are taking two departments that used to have, each had an administrative assistant, and combining them under one administrative, or over one administrative assistant, to see if that works out.
Yep.
I agree with Doug that when we are able to have, or find the resources to provide administrative support to assessors and the clerks, since they'll be in town hall, let's try one.
Yep.
And see how it goes, rather than just automatically staff up again, which I don't think makes sense.
I think that, Doug, is, I thought when we said, and I know, we had talked about this last time, the hiring freeze was more for new positions. That was my understanding, but then we, kind of created a situation where somebody couldn't come back, and that really, I felt bad about that, because I didn't quite understand that. So maybe not using the word hiring freeze, because people should be able to rehire to a certain degree. The positions like what, Ken was saying too, but to just, again, the town, that's the same thing that my thought in my head was, the town said no to bigger government, and to even be discussing, for an override, we would have to really say, there's just like this absolute need to, have an override for other positions. I don't know, but maybe we don't call it a hiring freeze, because they need certain things. The town administrator meets, is it weekly still with the department heads,
Yes.
and they're all talking, so, I mean, to have a control function where no one, you know, you can't, you have to come and say, I'm gonna hire this person back, or a position back. I'm sorry, I don't mean to use the word people, because it's not people, it's position. Those are my feelings. We can't just run rampant, but by the same token, we can't cripple a department if some of it's been funded either.
Right, but the thing is, a lot of the positions that we're talking about were not funded.
Right.
So a source of funding needs to be identified if we are going to put in an assistant to serve both the town clerk and the assessor.
If they weren't funded, then how can they even hire? The town said no to that money. Am I misunderstanding something?
That's why I thought we should go look at doing an override.
Okay.
Because we're going to need money, if we're going to consider hiring one assistant to help both the assessor and the town clerk, there is no money to do that
Right.
right now. So you would need to do some type of an override to obtain the money to do that.
Right, it's just making sure, right, that we, it's more putting it out there to the public, not that I don't agree with that. So maybe I didn't say
Right.
that correctly. I'm already, because from the last meeting where we said we were going to talk about override, okay, a lot of people called me, and we're absolutely not, Diane, I can't even believe that you're talking about that right now. So, you know, there's already pushback, and we haven't even had a full discussion to say the things that
Right.
you're saying. Luann and Carol, I don't even know how they've been doing what they're doing. Absolutely, and that's just the one that pops right into my head. I agree with you.
Honestly, I didn't have the option to go to town meeting floor and ask to fund for my assistant. I took an assistant's job from 32 to 40 hours a week. I cut her down to 18 hours a week, no benefits,
Right,
no
you just cut
holidays,
her.
no health insurance, nothing. I went to the advisory board with my budget. I was told, no assistance, everybody cut them off your budget. So me and Carol, doing as we were told, lost our assistants because other departments didn't cut their assistants. They got the funds for them now, so even though they had the layoffs or lost their assistants, where is it right now? They get to hire back, and because we followed procedure and listened to what the advisory board told us to do, we cut our departments. Honestly, I'll cut my salary and I'll hire someone else in my office to work, and when it runs out, we're out. Because if I would've went to town meeting floor, you can bet the majority of town meeting would've said, get me an assistant.
I can give you an example of how, I mean, first of all, I have no hiring agenda.
Right.
No agenda to hire new people. The one area where I would advocate for administrative assistance is with the clerk and with the assessor.
yeah.
But to give you an example of what happens, Luann came over to town hall, was in the finance office doing some business. No one else was there in the office. A gentleman wanted service from the office, got very angry, called up, no one's here, what's going on? I said, I saw her over in the finance office, I know she's in today, I know she's just there temporarily, she'll be going back. He called me back 10 minutes later, no one's here. And he was really upset, and there wasn't a lot I could do to explain the big picture there and why it happened. But this was just a citizen who wanted to, be in the assessor's office, and I guess he wanted to file for an abatement or something, I forget, but, and that's the kind of thing that happens that really upsets the public. And especially when they come over to town hall, I think we have an opportunity, we ought to figure out a way to provide staffing there, one person to start with, just to have a presence in the office for when people visit and when the department head has to leave for some reason.
Yes.
You know, Doug had made the comment about joining forces with the town clerk and the assessor. However, Luann just stated she's talking about bringing someone on 18 hours, no benefits. Now, if you join forces together, that means you're going to have to give them more than 18 hours, which now you're going to be responsible for benefits on top of that. Which again, from what I've heard in the past, they're looking to stay away from benefits, looking to stay away from retirement plans. Well, if you hire one assistant that's going to go in that's going to do a dual role,
Right.
then you're talking about having to pay benefits, because there's no way that one assistant's going to be able to do anything under 20 hours. So, it's a good thought, it sounds great, but to be able to give somebody a dual role, but then again, you also have, responsibility factor, and you also have the benefit factor
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy's right, but my opinion is that we have to start looking at benefits. I mean, if we want quality individuals are looking for a decent wage and benefits. I mean, this concept of, oh, we don't want to pay benefits, we don't want to pay retirement, we don't want to pay that, has got us where we're at. I mean, we need to start operating as a business. If we want quality help, then we need to provide the pay and the benefits that attract quality help. And I think, even though the two departments may share the assistant and we have to pay them more than 20 hours or work them more than 20 hours, it's the right thing to do. It's what's in the best interest of the town.
And I completely agree. And I'm not saying that we should be trying to deny people benefits. I'm saying that we just need to make sure to be cognizant and figure that amount into, if we are going to ask for an override, what the amount of that override is, so that we actually fully fund the position and we're not suddenly like, oh, our Worcester County retirement went up 9%, we don't have the money anymore. Yes?
When you consolidate into one building, some of these issues may go away, so you have the opportunity then to make that decision whether you need to end up doing additional hiring or additional support. Right now, because we are spread out, it's still an issue. The advisory board looked at that. If they were all in one building, we had opportunities to end up consolidating, and probably end up getting the necessary coverage. Until that happens, you're right, we're going to have some issues.
Yes.
And just to maybe piggyback on Bob, yesterday I left my office for 2 hours to go to a funeral. I came back, 18 phone messages, and there was literally a line at my door. And if we're continuing and waiting till we move over to the selectman's office to the new building, you're talking not till September or October. I've been without an assistant for 15 months. And mind you, because of last year's situation, I've had to float weeks of vacation into this year. If I don't get an assistant, my office is closed 6 weeks this year. And like Bob said, I was out of my office maybe a half hour one day, 45 minutes, and he gets the phone call. So that's what you're looking at. If that's what you choose to do, I understand that. But like I say, it's definitely cutting the hours on mine. As it is, I close my office on Thursday so I can get my work done without people. Stupid me leaves the door unlocked, so people just walk in, and I wait on them because I'm not going to refuse the public. That's who I'm there to work for. But, you're putting me between a rock and a hard place, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm open 3 days a week, and I'm closed for 10 hours on Thursday to finish doing my work. That's the only way I'm mostly getting it all done. Am I getting it all done? No, I kind of prioritize. But that's what the situation, and that's what you guys are putting in. And thank goodness my board backs me, so they know what I'm doing, and they appreciate it. And there's nothing more I can do, because until I keep telling you week after week that I want my assistant back, there's nothing I can do.
Yes, Holly, fine.
I have a couple of points. First, on the town clerk and the assessor combination, I think you need to think about what you're asking of an employee that's going to come in full-time, do 2 separate jobs that are completely different, put together. It's going to be really difficult. I've done jobs like that where you have to split your time. The second thing is the hiring freeze. I agree that it should be lifted, and I think you could do a situational basis, whether you have Bob do it. It just seems it's a blanket thing, and there's so many situations in town where we could use other people to be hired to come to the board every time and talk about this. And the last thing is, I have enough for a part-time assistant to hire in my office. By God, I need one. Right now I'm there full-time at least. We just moved over. I'm trying to unpack. I'm trying to organize town hall. I'm trying to clean. Like Pete said, we don't have a custodian for that massive town hall. We're trying to share all the duties right now. I can't even tell you all the things I'm doing right now. It's insane.
Yep.
So.
You know how to fix the toilets. You're doing good.
Yes, sir.
One clarification. We are only going to have 24-hour coverage until September 1st.
That's right.
Yeah.
After September 1st, it goes back, ends at 2 o'clock in the morning, doesn't come back on until 10 o'clock in the morning. Also, as Bob knows, I have no administrative assistant and was not informed that I wasn't going to be hired.
We totally tied his
And I do not
hands.
have the skill set to do that job. My department is going to fall apart in less than 2 weeks. I can't bill, I can't do all of it. I'm trying to keep it together right now, but there's no way I can do that job.
Yeah. Was the position funded?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
right. So I think that it's,
Yeah,
if,
you have to.
and for situations like that, I think that, and to call it, to even call it a blanket hiring freeze is disingenuous, because we have hired some positions. So there isn't a blanket hiring freeze. Then it becomes this battle, like, Alan doesn't get his, but we hire someone over here, or the chief doesn't get his, but we put someone over here, because it's, I think that to call it a hiring freeze at all is disingenuous. It leads to, I think, conflict and strife between department heads when one person gets a position filled and another doesn't. And then if the town has funded it, because the town has not funded a lot, in my opinion, but if the town has funded it, we might as well, I understand that we don't have to necessarily use it, but if the town has funded it, then I think that it, why should a department fall apart when the money's there to be used, and, just for the sake of having a blanket hiring freeze? If anyone on the board wanted to make a motion to replace the word hiring freeze with controlled hiring to be supervised by the town administrator regarding funded, again, we're only talking about, at least well, obviously we're only talking about, because there's no money if it's not funded, but at this point, we're talking about only positions that were funded at town hall. I think that I would be more than happy to accept a motion along those lines if anyone cares to make one.
I would make that motion.
I will second it.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion on this particular, on just the hiring freeze part of it? Yes.
We also have to be cognizant and get the word out to department heads that what was voted at town meeting was a line-by-line budget. So to change that, you have to go back to town meeting.
Right.
So if you're going to shift money around from line items, it's not us, it's not your boards, it's town meeting that has to do that. So be very careful with what you do.
Any further discussion? Yes, John?
Question. My understanding is that the town administrator is the hiring authority. Is that correct?
Not,
In the new arrangement, town administrator, in effect, nominates, and the new hire has to be confirmed by the Board of
We
Selectmen.
confirm
That's how it works. So there's a process. And I apologize for overlooking the chief of police. What I have on my mind is the incident that occurred recently in the assessor's office, but the chief did come to me, and he said exactly what he said here. He said, I'm trained as a police officer, and I'm not very good at, or any good at administrative work, and it's starting to pile up. They did have a retirement. We didn't lay off their administrative person. We've had a retirement. It's funded in the budget. And I would say if, in fact, your position is going to be that if you're funded, you can go ahead and replace people, then that problem can get resolved.
and I would add that caveat, just to make sure that all department heads are, understand that they can't fund the position by moving it. When you say funded, you mean line item funded on the, that's why I think that having that supervision, which there would be anyway, but just be great. So we have a motion and a second. Julie?
Yes.
Doug? Oh, sorry.
Discussion.
One more discussion.
I mean, I would just caution that just because we have a position funded in the budget, shouldn't be just a blank check.
Right,
to-
right.
To fill it. I mean, I think a department head needs to advocate or prove to Bob that, yes, we need to fill this
Right.
position and it is funded.
Right.
So that's all I have to say, and I'll vote yes.
Okay. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Okay. And we will add, for formal, we can call and vote on override, Holly, on our next agenda, if that's okay, just so people are aware that we likely will be doing that. The next item we have on the agenda is to discuss the retirement payments for enterprise funds. I know that we touched on that briefly, or we touched on it during the...
This has been a problem. I believe that we've now addressed it, and it's fixed. I was not aware until about 10 days ago at a meeting that we had at Scout Hall with the advisory board that the town did not have a practice of billing the enterprise funds for their share of Worcester County retirement and health insurance. As soon as we found that out, I asked the treasurer to get bills out for fiscal 14, which has happened, and to have a regular practice of sending invoices to the sewer, water, and light departments for their allocation for retirement and health insurance. So I think we're on the right track with that now.
Great. Does anyone on the select board have any? Okay. If not, the next item is to discuss the signing of warrants for light and water payments.
I think someone had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
So we're gonna start billing them monthly like it used to be done? Any quarterlies or
Monthly bills,
for the insurance and the retirement?
I don't have an answer for that right away. I didn't know it was done monthly. Actually, what I was told was that it had not been done at all during 2014, and that the prior treasurer didn't do it, and the new treasurer wasn't aware that it should be done. So
I think the problem started in the treasurer's hands when they started switching from one to the next to the next.
yeah.
Somebody dropped it and didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, you're out. It definitely does need to be done.
Is monthly invoicing sounds like some bureaucracy to me. Would it not make sense to have it done quarterly?
Yeah.
Because that's when the payments are due.
Hmm?
I don't know.
Well, we'll work that out.
Luann?
I know when I was in the sewer department for the enterprises, which is what you're talking about, we were billed twice a year. We were billed in
Oh.
November and May by the treasurer. I mean, she faithfully sent them out.
That makes
And now
sense,
because
too.
of the turnovers, I see where it could have lapsed, but they were billed twice a year based on the rates coming in for next year.
Yes, sir.
How often is the town billed by Worcester County Retirement? Isn't that like an
sorry?
annual thing? How often is the town billed by Worcester County Retirement?
We're billed annually,
Annually.
yes.
So
And we
there's
plug that
really not
number
much
into the
point
budget.
We really don't need them to pay monthly.
Yeah. I think that's, more paperwork than we need.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to pay monthly, but we don't need to. Let me see if, work on that a little bit more. We'll get it squared away.
Yes, sir.
One of the members of the advisory board had looked into payments for retirement. He found out that you can end up paying it once during the year, or if you pay it all up front, there is a discount.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that he advised to look into. I think it was at one of the meetings.
And there are discounts for health insurance as well, if you pay within the first month of the fiscal year.
Is there anything else on that issue? Okay, if not, we can move on to the signing of warrants for light and water payments. This is on the agenda for the reason that we know that we have this issue where we have the special legislative acts that created the relationship that we have. So because that special legislation applies only to this town, there's not a lot of previous DOR or judicial, for that matter, rulings on this topic because the law only applies to us. So the issue arose that we weren't told that if you don't want to put light and water on the annual town meeting warrant, you don't have to. We were told not to and to remove it. So we were instructed by council, well, by the DOR and then by council, to comply and remove those items. So we didn't make a choice, that's what we were told to do. Well, now the issue comes that there's also a law that says that the expenditures coming out of the town treasury have to be approved by the executive branch, whether that be a mayor or a board of selectmen, in our case, obviously a board of selectmen. So we now have these two conflicting state rules, one which said we weren't supposed to vote on light and water's budget, and then we also have one that says we're not supposed to be sending out payments for their bills if the town meeting hasn't approved it. So I know that we were working on making a determination, and as the fiscal year has started, we need to do that pretty quickly, particularly as there is pending legislation that will say that selectmen are responsible for unauthorized payments that they make. So I don't want to be personally responsible for light and water's budget, and I'm sure others do not as well. So I don't, not that you would get much from me, my student loan debt, but Bob, have you heard from
Yes, I
Paul
have.
at all?
I
Okay.
talked with town council on this. Town council advises that you sign their warrant. Also, there's one additional control, and that is I will be signing the department head's payroll, and included with that is the payroll of all the other employees. Department head, the general manager, signs, countersigns for the employees, and I countersign for the general manager. So, I have a responsibility to look that over and make sure that that's in order. We do not have, I think your point is that we're not going to have any control on the expenditure side of the budget. But I did talk with Attorney DeRensis, and his advice is sign, even though obviously there's confusion and conflict here in what your responsibilities are.
And just to lay out, well, from a selectman standpoint, obviously any selectman, can't be forced to sign anything you don't want to sign. So that's obviously a personal choice as an elected official. However, for those selectmen that do choose to sign, the way that legal counsel laws are structured, because we are, unpaid elected officials, the Commonwealth has an interest in getting people to volunteer to do these types of things, which they would not do if they were constantly under threat of suit. If town council advises that we can or have the legal ability to do something, that provides us a legal defense. So if someone ever did sue us and say, well, Ken, you shouldn't have signed that because town meeting didn't approve it, even if a judge says that, oh, that was right, as a defense, town council told me I could go after town council. So that there is that protection there, which is why I wanted that opinion. So obviously, if any selectman does not feel comfortable signing, they don't have to. But for those of you that do feel comfortable, if you get sued, you can blame Paul and use that. Not blame him. Use him as a defense.
Is there an email to that effect?
I'm sure we can get one. We have that in writing, or we can.
I can get that in writing.
Yeah, okay.
This was in a phone conversation with Attorney DeRensis, but I can certainly have that reduced to writing. I think the prospect of a lawsuit would be very remote. If there's any malfeasance or misfeasance, I think it would involve the Attorney General going directly after the person in one of those departments that is responsible.
Right. Great. If there's nothing else, then the next item that we have is to discuss the summer recreation program. And this particular item, I'm assuming, has to or relates to the money, the light and water contribution as pertains to the summer recreation program, involved in particular in the swimming aspect of that. And I don't know if there's been any developments in that, Bob or Holly, that.
I did refer this again to town council, and I have again a verbal opinion that the town meeting did not vote any funds for this department, and that any kind of activity like the swimming program would have to be conducted privately. It would have to be conducted without any town employees being involved. There would have to be a contract. He recommended a $1 a year contract for any town facilities that would be used, and that would be the only involvement of the town. It is legal for the Light and Water Department to make a contribution to a nonprofit entity. I have not been successful in finding out more information about this nonprofit entity, this Friends group, other than it has a name, Friends of Lassie.
Lassie Week.
Yeah, that's as much as I know at this point about it. But as long as the decision of the town meeting is not violated, in effect, this would be a private operation funded by a contribution to a nonprofit.
Which then would fall squarely in the wheelhouse of the light and water, so it would be their.
Correct.
Their
And
issue.
the nonprofit also has to have their own insurance.
Right.
We're not, and the town is not in a position to provide insurance.
Right.
And obviously, if you're running a swimming program, you need to have insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
The Recreation Department has always been an appointed board, and because of that, we have been funded under the town's insurance laws. Now, we understand that you weren't able to give us any money this year, so we did go out and find $12,000 for us to run the swimming program, as well as the rec department for playground. We have the funds, we just need the insurance waiver for the Templeton Fish and Gun, and the playground itself is being held at the schools, Templeton Center School mainly. So that is town property already, so that should be grandfathered or whatever. But we need to move fast because the summer's going quickly. We have this money, and it's gonna be a shame that we're gonna have to give it back. And that's not fair to the generosity of these businesses that are helping us, or wanna help us.
At this point, as Bob said, where the law comes down is that because, as he said, because the town did not approve a budget for it, the town, meaning obviously us, cannot be involved in kind of backdoor funding something that the town didn't. If a private group obviously wants to do that, the only real part of it that we would play would be agreeing to sign those $1 contracts to say that you can use this or can use that for $1. But like, as Bob said, with the insurance issue, if taxpayer insurance that's funded by taxpayers cannot be used to cover and expose the town to liability, an activity or activities which the town did not approve doing. Which, again, I'm not obviously anti-recreation and swimming in parks, that's not the goal, but my goal is to make sure that the town does not get in trouble and that we comply with all various aspects of the law. So I think it's great, I think that it should be done. However, the town's involvement will be limited to, if the board agrees to it, which I'm assuming they will, these $1 contracts to use the space. Besides that, everything will be done privately and not using taxpayer dollars or taxpayer-funded property other than what is in the contract.
Right.
Yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, we won't be doing the Cory checks, we won't be doing the payroll, we can't do any of that. It can't go through the town,
That was
okay?
done last year, so, I mean, Cory checks are good for more than 1 year, I believe.
The town can't have anything to do with this except the $1 contract to use the facility. Now, I believe the beach at Templeton Fish and Game is owned by Templeton Fish and Game. I don't believe that that's a town beach, so that's not between the town and the the people who want to get this going. This is between Templeton Fish and Game and the people who want to get this going. Okay, that's not our facility. If you want to use playgrounds, then we would sign a $1 contract for you to use the playgrounds. That's the only involvement that we can have because of the way town meeting voted not to fund the rec department.
And our insurance I'm sure would require that the entity that we lease the equipment to be bonded and insured themselves as a condition, because our insurance, again, is not going to want to pay if someone gets hurt. We can't pay legally, use taxpayer-funded things to pay for something that taxpayers didn't agree at town meeting to fund. Yes, Diane?
So am I to understand you correctly, you're running a summer camp school?
That's where playground has traditionally been, yes.
You're talking about the summer camp in high school?
Yeah, I mean, it's programs that the town run and funded since 40 years, since I was.
It's the same program that's always been.
And it's, actually, if things went into place, we would possibly look at moving it to the Gilman, back to the Gilman facility this year because of the space we have now with the playground, the up-to-date playground equipment there. But these are the bigger concern is, we've gone out and gotten money and would like to run the rec programs that we traditionally run, which is summer program, swimming, rec soccer, rec basketball, and rec softball. With some clinic-based things in between, field hockey, football, and stuff like that. But we don't have the money to go out and get our own insurance. That's the issue, and I don't understand why that's still.
Well, let me ask you, as a representative from the Board of Health, are you prepared to follow the Christian's law? Do you have the personal
I don't know what she's saying. Christian's law, like ever since that kid died.
If you read
Yes,
the
it was
Christian's law, it's not, you cannot teach a child to swim in a PFD. The child, if they're under supervision, they are not required to wear a PFD.
A child cannot get in the water without.
A child cannot learn to swim with a big bulky PFD on. That defeats the purpose of it. You would never have
Well,
If we're not
right.
following Christian's law, we will shut you down.
It's not, Christian's
Right,
law,
what's-
as I read it, said under supervised
Yep.
conditions, you do not need to be having PFDs
Right.
on everything.
Well, and I think what's going to be the big issue then is if, again, you say that you've had the program for, these arguments would have all been good arguments to make on town floor when the town voted not to fund that program. And I'm not saying that wholeheartedly, as I've said 1,000 times. I voted for the override, I held signs for the override, it didn't pass, so it is what it is. Now we deal with the consequences. So while I think that, yes, Luann deserves an assistant,